welcome to Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast, where on each and every episode we explore the world of Marvel's Mighty Thor. I'm your host, Eric Teskey, and today we're diving into the second installment of the Deific duo's Journey into Mystery, The Road to 800. This is legacy number 2, covering the second 100 issues of Thor, starting with Journey into Mystery 83. Now, it wouldn't be much of a Deific duo by myself, so I'm joined with my brother-in-arms, my Deific duo companion. I might have just escalated our relationship a little too much.
Very romantic.
The immortal Faz. Welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you, Hercules. I'm very excited for this. My brother from another pantheon and I rise again to continue with our second legacy number on this.
So if you haven't listened to the first in the installment, that's where we give a little bit of the background. But just to briefly catch you up to speed, Faz and I are reading every single Thor comic in order, and we're trying to finish it by the time issue 800 comes out, which should be around September 2026. So we have some time. But every 100 issues that we read, we're going to do a little check-in along the road. And every issue of Thor that we read, we also gain immense power. We have this insight and perspective now. We
can see lines where there weren't lines before.
Making all the connections. So
we're also going to get increasingly bitchier and know-it-all-y about
and
it, right?
Snarkier.
Yeah, snarkier. Yeah.
We're gonna know so much. We're gonna look down on people who haven't read every Thor issue. Come on.
Speaking of plebes who haven't read every Thor issue, Hercules, is anybody else joining us today?
Yeah, so to give us a little bit of order to the chaos, we have a lot of things that we can talk about in 100 issues, but we do have a guest joining us to maybe to moderate, maybe to keep us on track a little bit. We'll have to let him out of the trunk that we have him chained in the basement so he can come up for air. And Faz, I don't know, am I being weird? I'm trying to walk that fine line between what's that scene in the movie? I'm blanking on it. Never mind.
Look, you can say it. He's a friend of the show. We like him when he comes back sometimes. We had him on the first number 1. Maybe he'll stick around if he does a good job. He's currently flipping me off. And if he keeps up a minute time to the Goat Boat or the Star Jammer, who's here today, Hercules?
Listener, you might know him. It's Ryan Doze.
Hooray!
Good to have you back, buddy. Thanks for
I was in a trunk? Good God.
Chained in a trunk in the basement.
Fantastic. Air not even needed. Guys, I love the little side quest show we have going with the Deific duos.
Oh, this is the main show. Eric and I do the other stuff just so you'll let us do this. This is what it's about.
Well, I'm glad that after literally hundreds of episodes you and I have done together, Faz, that's finally coming out. I'm excited for part 2 of the Deific duo's Journey into Mystery, The Road to 800, where you and Eric will read every Thor main legacy number comic and gain immense all-power, omniphasient abilities beyond mortal men's wildest hopes and dreams.
I'm already omniphasient, but I can always become more omniphasient over time.
Honestly, the power scaling that you have gone through in this process is it's like, how can Thor get more powerful? He just does. He gets another MacGuffin, or he gains. It's like at the beginning of Donny Cates's run when he gains the power cosmic. It's like, did he really need that?
I mean, and the answer as we get to the end of that little story is absolutely not. He never needed it. It was just for vibes. Yeah.
But yeah, guys, right. I'm stoked for this.
So let me hit you with some stats, some fast facts really quick. So we read the first 200 issues of Thor appearances in 19 weeks. We have about 70 weeks remaining in this challenge. We've been reading 10.5 comics per week, and we have to read another 7.4 comics per week in order to finish on time. This centennial span of Thor comics goes from Thor 183 in October 1970 to 282 from January 1979. So you can think of this as really the 70s. The 70s, and what we're learning is that this is really the Gerry Conway, Len Wein saga. It's the Gerry Conway era and Len Wein. They had a good stretch of comics here, but those aren't names that you often hear in Thor creators. You know, we have a lot of Thor creators that have epic runs that they're known by name. And until we started this challenge, these names did not register for me as Thor creators necessarily. So that was something, even just reading through these, realizing that, oh my gosh, they had these big, like, what was it? Gerry Conway, he did like 45 issues of Thor. That's the same number that Walt Simonson did. Mm-hmm. That's a huge stretch of Thor's history as a character. That
he was but a child. He didn't even have access to the Phas Force yet.
He was a 19-year-old when he started writing. He's really known as a Marvel prodigy. He eventually went on to write a couple years later, I think, The Death of Gwen Stacy, and he's really, I think, known as a upstart Spider-Man creator of like the early Spider-Man at the time. But like, yeah, on the Thor scale, it didn't register at all. But now I know better because now we've read these, and so we know all the stuff that happens. This Centennial of Comics also, it picks up with the very end of the Stan Lee still writing / editing, and Kirby stepped away in around 177. But Stan Lee was still on for a little bit. And then we actually saw the first time Stan Lee was credited as an editor, because in issue 193 that starts Gerry Conway's run, Stan Lee is listed as Overseer Supreme. And then in the next issue, he's credited as editor. So we're watching the transition happen. They didn't list editors in the credits before then. And then now we're seeing there's this whole new role of this overseer, of the person who's helping to compile the book and keep things moving.
I just wanted to add in one thing here about Gerry Conway. Not really known as a Thor creator, but a few things he did create were Frank Castle, the Punisher, Ben Reilly, Peter Parker's clone. He created Carol Danvers, the first Miss Marvel, who'd go on to become Captain Marvel. And then over in DC, he is the creator of Firestorm, Jason Todd, and the Batman villain Killer Croc. So like there's some pieces of comic history. Obviously the death of Gwen Stacy is like the quintessential probably thing he's best known for. And some would say that comic ends the Silver Age and begins the Bronze Age of comics. So
some would say, I've heard you say that at least 5 times, right?
I'm just saying that he may not be known as a Thor creator, but he is a pivotal Marvel creator and Bronze Age comic creator. And definitely like a prodigy, and still alive today. Like he's only in his early 70s. So yeah, kind of crazy, but this is my little nerdy added in there.
Let's see. So, I mean, I guess as long as we're talking Gerry Conway, let me give you a brief sort of some nuggets from Conway's stretch of comics. So from 193 to 238, like I said, it's 45 issues. And we get a couple awesome storylines in there. The Edge of the World, or Well at the Edge of the World storyline, was one of my favorites. It really in all of Thor. The panel layout and the pacing feels a little bit 70s. It doesn't feel like a modern comic, but the care and attention that's given to the character moments, it slows way down and focuses in on Volstagg, focuses in on these moments. Hogan gets a moment, and really, really memorable for me as I'm thinking back to like this stretch of 100 comics. That there's a 4 or 5 issue run in there in that storyline that still stands out. We get it in Thor number 200. We get Vola's prophecy for Ragnarok that really sets the groundwork for what Ragnarok is going to be in the next couple decades. You know, that the cycle that Thor goes through. We get some more adventures with Tana Nile. We see some callbacks, and that's really something that Conway's doing well. Is he's not just inventing new stories and characters on really sort of the cosmic side of things, but he's also revisiting, playing the hits, I like to think of it, where he's doing some of the same stuff that feels very status quo, but it's really well executed. And it's almost like, whereas Lee and Kirby were doing things the first pass at it, like the first time there's a Mangog story, we're getting a much more polished, nuanced version of a Mangog story, even if some of the major beats are actually identical. So I don't interpret that as rehashing it. I interpret that as it's a hit. It's something that, probably people reading this we're not reading from the beginning and never saw that story, and there were no trades. There was no way to go back and get those issues. So that's the only way that they can sort of experience those storylines again for themselves.
Yeah, and then he just it's like you said, he took what Lee and Kirby created, built on top of it, and then brought in his own stuff too. Like, he has so much new in this run, in addition to paying respect to what came before. And he just the level of play he's playing at, he has no business being this good at 19. And I'm a little bit jealous. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I thought I was a young prodigy, right? And this guy's just blown me out of the water. I thought Ryan was a young prodigy. Here we are. We didn't know the well at the edge of the world at 19. That's just it's a crazy run. And it was extremely underrated. He definitely moves up. And honestly, Buscema art the whole time is a huge benefit. The art is so top class. The storylines are so interesting. They're building on the kind of multi-issue stories that Stan and Jack were trying, but they're better and actually plotted out from the beginning, not just, okay, I guess we're doing 4 pages of this. And he just the tropes disappear a bit. Most of the tropes are still there when Stan finishes his bit here, but then they start wandering a bit. And it really is where Thor became a space opera for the first time at this level. And being the guy that brought Thor to space at this level is something that needs to be celebrated.
Well, I think that's one of the main things about this. I love that you mentioned that, Vaz. It's where Thor becomes a character that his book is used to do things that only he as a character can do. Mm-hmm. And it's if he's just fighting gangsters and costumed villains in New York, literally every other New York superhero can do that. And
at this point, they got to the point where Thor was almost oh ho hum, unless if they steal my cane, I'm going to easily defeat everybody on Earth.
Yeah, so it's like Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange can't just fight masked bad guys all the time. You have to give him something that is worthy of his uniqueness, and I think this is something where Thor really steps into a lot of the grounding. The foundation is finally set. The first 100 issues, I think we talked about this last edition of the Deific Duo's Journey to 800. Fantastic.
The Deific Duo's Journey into Mystery, Road to 800.
I'll get it eventually, probably at the last episode. But I love that in that first 100, we are really throwing stuff at the wall. And then in this 100, Gerry Conway and Len Wein are okay, what is our base level? It's it's what Faz says. It's a space opera. It's a big, bombastic, stars and rainbow bridges and planets and, going
Viking
all the way.
Warships.
He's fighting gods in space. It's Flash Gordon meets Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings. It's all these different things.
Yeah, and there's in the cosmic realm of stuff really gets into if you look at just Thor versus Ego, Ego, the living planet, is so overpowered. It's ridiculous when he's in those first few appearances. It's almost a non-starter. You can't do anything about it. And then we also see these new alien races. I think it was in the Black Stars with this space scoop vacuum things. There's some weird stuff out there, but it really gets to the point that space is so vast. There are these these entire civilizations that are just on a whole different level, and it's not even close. Like Thor doesn't even have a chance at some of these things. They really have to like reason their way out and almost like make peace and just be like, oh, we're gonna go mind our business. And they're not taking them down. They're not killing off, these. They're not even fighting villains really. It's all at a new level of. These are misunderstandings. These are societies. Yeah, there's a whole bunch that
you're right. They're not even villains. They're just guys, and they don't know what's going on, and they either need to be told the error of our ways, or we learn a lesson about not judging a book by its cover. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if that was Conway or if that got into the later part, but that one with Spore, Len Wein, that one was like, oh man, I could feel where it was going the whole time, and they made me feel something for the space monster, and they cut down on
It's almost like it's a little bit of Star Trek, where like Star Trek is a lot about like how do we solve miscommunications, and how do we solve times when we don't have the same culture, have the same belief systems or value systems, and they work through all that. I like this idea of Thor as exploring space, and I think really we owe Cosmic Marvel. Like, you may not think of Thor when you think of Cosmic Marvel nowadays, but back in the day, like really a lot of the cosmic-y parts of the Marvel universe are established in Thor's book or in Fantastic Four.
Well, and maybe it's poetic then that in the MCU, the thing that was the branch into space that led to the Crazy Guardian stories was the more grounded space Thor stories that then pushed us forward afterwards. Things like Thor 1 and Dark World they walked so that the Guardians could run in the same way that Thor did this stuff for the first time. And, we've been talking a lot of big game. There were some annoying parts. I have notes saying that Odin is a idiot, thinking that Thor betrays him every 5 seconds, and it pisses me off. They brought Jane back, which drove me insane.
Hooray!
They did the Thor and Donald Blake, oh no, I only have 60 seconds and I've dropped my hammer thing a few too many times for my taste. Thor napped like 8 issues in a row at one point, and I was like, what are we doing? Why are we sleeping so much?
It's the nap saga.
But as far as tropes go, those ones are all, I'm okay with those. Those are all very reasonable for the 70s and the 80s, and it led to some amazing stories on the way, like the Infinity fight, which had a very fun reveal at the end. Listeners, you're going to want to find out what happened with Infinity, who the winner was, why the winner was. Spoiler alert, it wasn't Ryan. He lost.
There were a bunch of things that happened. Yes, there were some tropes, but there was some new stuff too. So in this run was the first time that it was established that Thor can call his hammer to him, and it's not just returning when it's being thrown, but it can be laying on the ground and he can, summon it back to his hand. And I think the first couple of times they do that, then there's some inconsistencies, because then a couple issues later, then it's on the ground and he can't reach it again. But they're getting into this new ability of, okay, the hammer is really obeying his commands, and it's, maybe it's telekinesis, or maybe it's just he's communicating with the hammer, but he can actually have the hammer do more advanced stuff or return to his hand.
Stuff that we consider just Thor core powers now that weren't in the first 100 issues, but have been brought in later. They also do some cool stuff, listeners, way later in the run to close some retcon loopholes, which we can get to. I think because we gave Gerry so much love, maybe we should give Len Wein and a little bit of Roy Thomas love, Eric, before we let Ryan quiz us on questions he has. So,
yes.
What do you think about the Len run in the middle there?
So, Len, his run is a little bit split up. So he did 213, 242 to 253. Base, and then maybe a couple issues off, and then finishes up at 271. So he had a good stretch as well. He really stuck out with time travel shenanigans. So that was a real highlight there, including time twisters and inventing the character of He Who Remains, which is now basically a household name. Anybody who's seen the Loki series on Disney Plus knows about He Who Remains. So inventing that concept and really getting into a lot of the timey-wimey stuff. Since We have Jane being a badass. That's something I appreciated in the Len Wein run because Jane was actually bonded with Sif. It's a little complicated in 236. Sif and Jane, their life essence basically become one, and so there's going to be aspects that it's a Jane with the soul essentially of an Asgardian warrior. And so she does more kick-ass stuff. She's not just this helpless bystander. She's actually participating in the adventure and coming along and doing things.
And it continues to confuse Thor, right? Where he's like, do I love Thor? Do I love Sif? Do I love Jane? Are they the same person? What's going on right now?
Yeah.
Whichever one I'm currently with, I don't really care. I want the other one. And then when I get the other one, I'm like, where's that one I was just with?
He's like, is this the worst thing ever because I can't be with Sif or with Jane? Or is this maybe low key the best thing that could have happened because I don't have to pick now? Like,
look, guys, Thor wanted a threesome real bad is the takeaway, but it was the 70s and he wasn't allowed to have it.
I don't know. I think they had plenty of three-ways.
I don't know.
Now, Eric, do you think it was like they'd be having, I guess, a twosome, for lack of a better word, and then Thor would ask Jane to touch Sif's sword, and then he would continue with Sif, and then he would ask her to let go of the sword and be back to Jane? Is that how it was going? Did Donald Blake make an appearance during these processes? How did it go?
Way to kill the mood with the Donald Blake transformation.
Yeah. I'm so flaccid now. I'm just kidding. I'm as lame as Donald Blake when you bring up.
Oh,
but no, it's like, does he need to hold the hammer if he's gonna get it on as Thor at this stage?
Whatever he's doing with Jane and Sif swapping places mid coitus, it's gonna be with their consent. I know that. So
definitely, that's true. Thor wouldn't do anything improper like that. But again, now I need to know about the hammer thing. Yeah, Len was awesome. There was a Hercules interlude in this, right? As there should be every 100 issues, hopefully, so that we can keep the good times rolling with the Deific duo.
Yes, but one of my favorite
the Conway run, I think.
My favorite Len Wein arc is Doomsday Star and Space Quests with the Starjammer. So the Starjammer is the name of their Viking ship that goes through space, and they even comment on it in character in the comic about like, this is amazing. We're standing on the deck of a ship and we can breathe, but there's nothing covering the hull.
Yeah, and it's made of wood, but for some reason lasers don't penetrate it. It seems fine.
So they've covered all of that, but it's an amazing stretch from 255 to 263 where they have reasons to go from one place to the other, and they're going on several different space quests, but it's all tied into the same mission. I believe that was when Mimir was sending them off to collect items for him, and Mimir actually made his first appearance in this run as well. That's the Guardian of the Well of Wisdom, which is the head on fire that does some prophecies and
during that, Eric, we also get the first time the masthead says, "Even an immortal can die," which
where have we heard
longtime listeners will know that. And this is one of those things. Again, guys, you're forgiven. Ryan didn't know this. You just, if you haven't read every issue of Thor like Eric and I have, you're not able to pick up on things like this. But Eric and I, we just, putting on my monocle, sipping my red wine, we just have a higher view of things that people like Ryan just can't,
We can just put all the pieces together.
It's all connected.
This 100 issue stretch also takes a wild right turn into mythology with Roy Thomas, who is just a mythology nut.
Oh, sorry. Before you get to Roy Thomas.
Sure.
The best part about Len Wein's run is that one Walter Simonson starts doing the art. What? Starting in Thor 260 to 271 or so. Listeners, it's beautiful. It's almost like Walt trying to do a Jack Kirby or John Buscema impression, not quite doing it entirely his own style yet. And it's a really beautiful blend of the two styles. You get a feel for it. A lot of the new characters look how Walt would draw them. Thor looks more Kirby-esque, but with Walt proportions. The cape is all caping. It is just... It's good to get Walt art, man. I can't complain about some Walt art. Anyway, sorry, Eric. That was my aside. Walt Simonson's the man.
Sorry, Eric. Just before we move on,
Don't apologize to me. We're just chatting about this run of comics.
Well, just before we move on from Len Wein, Len Wein, great writer. He co-created Swamp Thing and Wolverine, and along with the artist whose name is escaping me, and Will Rose is going to absolutely murder me. He revamped the X-Men. Giant Size X-Men #1 is Len Wein, but he's also a phenomenal editor. He edited, I don't know if anyone out there's read, probably someone is out there read, Alan Moore's The Watchmen. He edited that book. He was an editor at DC and Marvel for a long time. I'm just saying, the guy.
I think the first time I Googled him, I read good writer, one of the greatest editors of all time, is how people described him.
Editing, I think editing is probably the thing he's most prominent for. Probably had his longest impact on the comic book industry that way. But anyway, if for some reason you're listening and you did not know who Len Wein was, maybe you are more familiar with his creations or his co-creations. So anyway, just a little bit there, Eric. I again cede your hosting duties.
Easy does it, Ryan. Where you're getting a little too smarmy there.
I know.
Like you know too much.
Maybe if you'd read the first 200 issues, Ryan, but you haven't. So don't make me tie you up to that Starjammer and just send you all the way into one of the space scoops.
Because I cannot breathe in space on a wooden ship.
And these giant space scoop vacuum things, they look like giant dustbusters, and they're massive, and they will scoop you right up.
Oh, can I ask one question? When do the Rigelian recorders show up? Do they show up in this 100 issues, or were they the last 100?
It started in the last 100, I think. The recorder, he's in this a bunch.
Recorder first shows up in the previous 100, but he is in that Starjammer quest in the 255 to 263. Okay. So
cool.
Yeah. Anytime Thor does something particularly cool, the recorder reappears to be like, "Fuck, I gotta see this."
I gotta.
And people love recorders.
What?
What a great character. I wish he made more appearances because it's like a more interactive version of the Watcher. He's like, I'm just here to observe and record, but he's like showing emotion, and yeah, he's a real. I
believe he started in Thor 132.
Oh,
I'm just pulling I'm pulling that number out of my head because, again, as someone who's read every single Thor issue in the first 200, I know things. It isn't Google. It's just me knowing that.
Don't pull a muscle flexing so hard.
All right. Are we ready for Roy Thomas's hard right turn? It's like like I'm behind the wheel now. Skrr! He's like, we're going to Mythologyville and you're all coming with me. So he immediately introduces, brings all the female Asgardians back from, we don't know where they were, but all of a sudden
from Hot Babe Island.
He thought it was a sausage fest and wanted to fix it.
So we get
where are the chicks? Good grief.
Frigga shows up. We have Loki's wife. I don't know how to pronounce this. Sigyn.
Loki's wife. Everybody
sounds right. Yeah. And she has some great quotes like, "Yes, he's evil, and yes, he's the worst person ever, but it's my womanly duty to love him." It's like, okay,
what
that's a great quote.
You married a joke. What are you gonna do?
The heart wants what it wants. You know, he's got that good Loki smile.
We get Hugin and Moonin. We get Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse, and we get Hermod.
Badassery.
Mm-hmm. So during this, we also get the first retelling of The Day the Thunder Failed, which is again, Immortal Thor readers will know what an important issue that is, because it's the Utgard issue that is essentially the basis of this entire Immortal Thor run. Yeah. That was retold in a much, frankly, beautiful way by Martin Coccolo and Al Ewing. It was originally done by Roy Thomas and John Buscema, who did, they did an admirable job. Not everybody can be Martin Coccolo.
But it definitely felt like when you read 272, it stands out as like, wait a second, what the heck is this? This is not like your everyday Thor.
It's a hard right turn, yeah.
it is immediately like you're reading a fairy tale, and it's these mystical characters. So I can see why that stands out and is probably a good point of inspiration for Al Ewing to really pick up on that. If you're going to do a story about mythology and really sort of expand upon the deep lore roots, that's a great place to start.
And Roy kind of started with that and then went directly into Ragnarok, which is a crazy thing to begin your run with.
Yeah.
Not like Walt, who spent 30 issues building up to it, or 15, however many it was actually. Roy was like, we're here, it's Ragnarok, let's do this. And it was pretty good. Knowing what Walt does less than 100 issues later very much hurts this retelling of Ragnarok. And it's a fake Ragnarok, as they say at the end. But for the time, completely out of left field to do a full Norse mythology story like this, mind-blowing that he attempted this, and it led to what we got with Thor later.
Yeah, and another one of those, like, Odin's gonna Odin, and chalk it up to, like...
There, that was one of the critiques I wrote down so many times in these first 200 issues. It's like, we're all gonna lose, it's all over, we've got no more chance, and Odin goes, okay, yeah, no, don't worry, I'm still omnifascient, it's fine, I'll stop this now.
Yeah.
And then fixes the solution, which, if
great
only
idea.
there were more... And then you got other issues where Thor and Odin fight to a tie, and it's like, how though? Please explain to me how Odin is so powerful that he can just end Ragnarok with scheming, but Thor can fight him to a draw when necessary.
Yeah, for real. All right, I want to shout out a couple nuggets, and then we'll see if our moderator has any more philosophical, broader questions for us. So a couple of nuggets. So John Buscema art on issue 241, he draws an entire page of skeletons, and it stands out. I screenshotted this and I was like, this is badass. We get in the Conway run, a lot of people say Thor is too much of a sad boy, but it really, if you think about it, this is the first time that he's showing he's like a well-rounded character. He's going to have frustration. He's going to be disappointed. He's going to be depressed sometimes. And that really, I think, makes him more relatable, because in Kirby and Lee, he really is just this sort of monolith of heroicism, and
like, compared to modern comics, he's still extremely jovial. It's just the previous ones were like almost rocks on Thor like, in that he had a giant smile on his face the whole time.
Yeah.
Whereas these ones are more like he reckons with the consequences of the world that he is reaping.
In hindsight,
it
didn't even register for me. I was reading reviews about it, and then they were like, "Oh, he's so brooding" and stuff. Like, that's nothing. That's just
read Donny Cates, guys, if you think this Thor is brooding.
Come on, yeah.
Now.
Also, it's like, have you never read Batman? Like, that's like, all brooding.
The Black Reign of the Thunder King says hi. Come on, guys. We've read Donny Cates here. Let's go.
The Black Reign of the Thunder King says hi.
That's almost a direct quote from Donny. He says the Black Reign of the Thunder King. He might not say the says hi part.
Bum bum bum.
What
sounds like
other quick
a metal
hitters,
album
Eric?
name.
It does sound like one, yeah.
The letter sections have been great when they do include them. Ralph Macchio wrote in a couple of times, starting in I think
the
around
Karate Kid.
No, the editor and future Thor writer.
Fucking hilarious.
He never gets that joke, I'm sure. But around 220, and then for a few times, he writes in. I think he would have been about 24 at the time, and then he's writing the book less than 10 years later. So that just shows you right into the comic. I mean, you might be getting a job on the book. Who knows?
And Ralph was an editor at Marvel forever too. Like, he edited so many different books, including Thor. So yeah, not just writing, but he was there for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to be peppered with questions, gentlemen?
Pepper away.
Okay. My body is ready.
I'm ready.
I can't. Why do I literally ask him to show up all the time. And it's just like, my body is ready.
Hey, what do you mean ask him to show up? This is Eric and my show. You are the guest.
Sorry, I forgot.
Stay in line or you will be retaped. Yeah.
It'll be back in the trunk for you if you don't behave yourself. Come on.
You think a War Thor can handle a Hercules and an Immortal Phaz? No way, brother.
I don't know. I don't feel like Volstagg got to go run wide open in that book. Anyway, not even close to what we're talking about. So I'm always, because you guys are reading 100 issues at a time, I'm very curious as to the themes that are showing up, the ideas that are being reinforced over and over and over again. Maybe within each creator's run, but we only really saw two creators like big vision within this run, Gerry Conway and Len Wein. What themes keep showing up, and why might they be important to listeners who are checking this out?
One of the ones that we see a lot, it comes up in the space travel. I think we kind of touched on it briefly, but we can expand on it here, is this idea that like you're a big fish in a small pond, or you think you're all that, and then you go out and you realize that there are much bigger sharks out there, that the water's much deeper than you would have ever thought, and you really don't even know what you're in for.
Like Thor's an ant multiple times compared to the other things.
Physically, sometimes, I mean, they literally are like little tiny fleas, and there's these giant, bigger than giants, bigger than Galactus. Like he's literally like in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids running around, and he doesn't stand a chance. He's trying to, at first fight this civilization of huge people, but it's an entire, space station of them. It's not just one, and even just one, like the smallest gesture and Thor's like getting brushed away. So, and that along with, I think, learning to, don't just swing the hammer first, ask questions later. It's realizing that like, yeah, maybe you're going to make people pissed off, and you're going to, like you're punching above your weight in some of these situations. So maybe start with a little bit more diplomacy, and not just assume that everything is a brawl ready to happen.
Well, and adding on to that too, the nuance of the villains over the course of this run, like we touched on a bit there, changes. Like you still get Loki, God of Evil, you still get Hades, you get Ulick, but even Ulick starts getting some good reasons for why he needs things. Like, I need that jewel because otherwise my entire world is going to be destroyed. Please help me. Like, and Thor finds himself having to now support people that he actively hates because they're evil villains, because they're the righteous cause. And it's a lot of being a hero means sometimes you have to help the asshole. And being the hero means that sometimes you're on the wrong side, and you have to realize that. Like when he's trying to fight Firelord a bunch, there's just a whole bunch of misunderstandings. Neither of them are bad guys really ever. It's always just either mind control or misunderstandings. And apart from Loki, everybody garners sympathy pretty much throughout the entire run. Even Hades, I think at one point, Thor needs to help him because without the underworld, what are we going to do? So he has to help him too, and he like learns that like, yeah, sure, he's a dick, but is he really evil, or is he just scheming? Because those are two different things.
Or is he just a dick?
Or would you say he's mischievous?
Well, so was there, like, for each of you, what was your who was your favorite villain or antagonistic force in this 100 issues?
Oh gosh, I really liked Spore. I mean, that really it kind of stuck out because it starts off being so imposing and so like, okay, this is like a sci-fi tentacle monster, and then you empathize with it, and like there's a character moment for that, which is basically this blob of spores that you feel for by the end of it. So that kind of stood out.
Yeah, no, that was really nice. My favorite would be the Egyptian gods.
Okay, so Seth and
the whole
crew.
pantheon, because they had a very Norse mythology like battle setup. Like they organized it so that it was kind of an allegory for how the Norse guys were. They even used Odin very nicely in it. And my first mythological love, listeners, was Egyptian mythology when I was a kid. I got into Norse mythology associated with getting really into Thor. So seeing that was a lot of fun. Seeing how they built all that in, and how, again, they're pretty true to Egyptian mythology in the same way that they're pretty true to Norse. Like they take some liberties, but it's got like enough of the scaffolding there. I will say my least favorite villain was the Hyperion from Alter Earth during this one extremely stupid filler issue where
Yeah.
Hyperion is fighting evil Hyperion, and Thor goes to the alter Earth and has to come back. It is so dumb. It's completely out of place, and it's only there because Roy Thomas needed a break. But
we really get into some. It starts to unravel a little bit around Stiltman, and then it kind of goes like we get some Faust. Stiltman? Faust is like this AI that Shield is kind of dealing with, and it's just and we get some weird stuff. It gets into the area that I think Faz noticed this. We get into an era at the very end of this 100 comics where they really stop explaining stuff, and they expect you to have read the entire Marvel line-wide releases. You're thrown into the middle of an Avengers story or the middle of a Hyperion story, and you're like, what in the world is happening?
And then they usually go, just give us a couple pages, it'll make sense. And they don't really ever explain anything. And it's like, I can understand what we're doing, but why would you do it like this? And I get they needed to sell comics, but like,
feeling lost, reader, like you better pick up all these. It's like, okay, like we're not going to buy all
you shilling bitch.
Yeah, like I have Marvel Unlimited, and these are from 40 years ago, and I'm still not going to go read those other ones. I'm just going to complain to you guys that they don't connect.
That's great. So guys, I just one like wrap up question, I guess, because we've talked about a lot of different things. We talked about creators. We talked about favorite moments. We talked about favorite stories.
But before we wrap up, Rye Guy,
okay,
it's important to mention the retcon. I teased it earlier in the episode. We need to talk about it. So, listeners, like Eric aptly said, like Hercules aptly said, let me use your formal name. I'm sorry, my brother. There's a lot of timey-wimey stuff happening here, and it almost felt like they were trying to get through as many timey-wimey stories as they wanted to, almost as if they wanted to close a loop on that. And Eric, can you talk a bit about what retcon they did to Mjolnir?
Yeah, it came up in our first Road to 800 show. We're talking about, oh my gosh, back in the day, Thor could just time travel. That, I guess, I don't know if that's you or me. Thor could just time travel by
both of us. We both sound like
swinging his hammer. He didn't even need any other explanation. He could just spin his hammer fast enough to time travel. That's so wacky. Why would they have that? And like, it gets addressed and it gets resolved in this, at the end of this sort of 100 issue time span, where we get a very specific story where the time travel power in Mjolnir is used up, and it is said that it can no longer do that anymore. And it's definitively that used to be a thing, and now it's not. And so we can point to that individual issue and say, that's the point when Thor could no longer time travel just by spinning.
Okay.
So it is satisfactory to kind of.
It's also super cheeky, listeners, because there's like Thor says something to the effect of, this whole battle kind of seems like it was organized just to prevent me from time traveling anymore. That's very strange, isn't it?
Like,
wink
what a
directly
strange,
at camera.
Yeah, what a strange series of events. It almost seems like it was all just laid out for me to lose the time travel power.
Yeah, like, did someone out there not want me to have time travel? Like, what? That's so strange. Yeah.
That feels like something in a Deadpool comic where Deadpool goes back and fixes all the retcons of the Marvel universe. That honestly,
just give Al Ewing 5 minutes of Deadpool and he'll get that done. It'll connect.
I'm literally pitching this right now. If Al Ewing could write a Deadpool series called Deadpool Fixes the Marvel Universe,
ooh,
that
would Marvel
be
continuity
incredible.
To be even more clear. Yeah.
So guys, my last question. I'm curious because I get to see kind of behind the scenes in our group chat every once in a while when you guys give us updates on how things are going. But I just want listeners to know, how have your feelings about Thor changed or been enhanced throughout the second 100 issues? Obviously, you have a lot of current knowledge of the character within the last 5-10 years. We've read a lot. We've read to Simonson, but like going back to the very beginning, you read the first 100. How did the second 100 change or alter your feelings about Thor as a character?
I can jump in to start. I think if you are someone who has only read modern Thor, maybe you've only read Jason Aaron on, there's a similar sort of vibe about Thor in a lot of those modern stories. And if that's your definition, if that's your personal definition of Thor, then that's rather limited in the grand scheme of things. And I think we're going back and reading these early issues is really increasing my threshold for comic book silliness and wacky alien races and interesting situations. And it's making me so that I don't question when something bizarre and wacky kind of happens. And I'm just like, oh, I guess that's what happened. I guess that's how you got out of that one. You just take it as fact. And so I think this is going to make it so that reading comics moving forward, it makes me a lot more open-minded and willing to accept any kind of solution that is. I'm just like, oh, I guess that's it.
It's time for you to rewatch Love and Thunder and see where it fits on your Thor ranking list. Now that you've got the patience for silliness, legitimately, I'm not joking. Yeah.
Because if I'm like, oh, my Thor has to be, this serious edgelord warrior who's like untouchable
type packing.
Yeah.
No, it's like. That's definitely a great point, Eric. I had more experience with a sillier Thor before, maybe because I started as an extreme diehard MCU fan, and Ragnarok is the reason why I love the character to begin with.
Right.
So that was like the thing that like Thor is like that to me, and then getting him to be serious in the Jason Aaron comics onward was kind of a change up. But it is entirely internally consistent with the arc that Thor goes on over 60 years. I've read a lot of Thor. Like I read Simonson, I read Jurgens, I read all of JMS, I read all of Fraction, I read Aaron, I read basically anything from Jurgens onward I've read. But getting to feel the beginning and seeing how it's going to lead into Walt, knowing where he goes on Walt. Don't know what'll happen in the middle between Walt and the Jurgens run, but seeing how it's all connecting, it feels really consistent with the hero's journey while the tone is completely different. And it's really enriching the experience and causing me to become a much more detailed and better Thor fan.
Oh my God.
Because now I know everything when I previously didn't know it. No, but in all seriousness, one thing about this 200 issues is that it makes me respect Immortal Thor even more. Because when Al talks about Thor in the past, he captures this vibe very well.
Yeah.
And he did that because, like us, Al Ewing has read everything. The only person who is as impressive as Eric and I is the Al father himself. Because even the other Thor writers, like Walt Simonson stopped reading Thor after himself, right? Like he catches the odd issue, but he's not keeping up with it. Only the Al father reads it all. And us.
Guys, thank you so much for doing this fun project. I think it's really cool how people will get kind of a passenger seat journey through these 800 issues.
It's not just a passenger seat, listeners. The Excel sheet is publicly available. Please join us and chase us down. See if you can catch up.
That is available to you. We will link that in the episode description for this episode. And the next 100 issues is essentially Simonson, but also there is a stretch of Doug Mensch writing in there, and Keith.
We have a lot of Roy Thomas too.
There's a fair amount of Roy Thomas to go with. I think we just got started with Roy.
Right. I would just like to say, like, Doug Mensch, probably not super duper familiar to modern comic book fans, but he created a lot of key characters and stories in the Bronze Age. So let's not just like skip ahead to Walt Simonson and be like, nothing happened.
Look, the biggest takeaway from doing this is that all the runs that are regarded as bad are pretty damn good so far. Like, so I can't wait to read the non-Walt stuff.
Yeah, because and as a show, we've already gone through the Walt Simonson stuff. So you know what, guys? I might even join you for this next 100 stretch.
Oh, that's only if we let you out of the box. You're going to have to do some nice things for us first.
Wow. I throw you an olive branch and you're just like, nope, it's the box for you. But a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Eric, you're the host. You want to wrap this sucker up and get us back on the Rainbow Bridge?
Sure thing. That's right, listeners. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're taking the Starjammer, with your best friend, the recorder, on some wacky adventures in through space vacuums, or if you are Volstagg, kicking ass and shooting energy beams out of your hands in issue 263, we invite you to do one thing, and that is to stay worthy.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum.